It'll show in the group. All right. We're back. We're live. There we go. All right. I'm going to start that way. Hey, everybody. Sorry if you were watching, got disconnected, all of that good stuff. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, so thanks for being patient. I want to welcome Lina Ravenhill to Bookish Pen Pals tonight. We're going to talk about her fantastic YA fantasy series, Aforetime. So welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
So, I was introduced to this series by one of the other admin who had read all three of them. I'm going to admit I've read the first one because I find that if I read them all and then I talk to authors, I tend to want to talk about everything and then I don't want to spoil anything. So you've read the first one and I'm reading your new arc. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. So tell us a little bit about this series for those members who haven't read it.
So I started writing 2 years ago, and I wanted to write for a long time, but contemporary did not attract me at all, and pretty much none of other genres. I didn't want to do it. So I was reading different books and books that people loved just to see what I would like. And I found this author who wrote like a similar style fantasy books that are not too in detail. They're not epic fantasy. It's not a fantasy romance that is massive right now. It's more of the lighthearted adventure with a little bit of a romance subplot. And I really loved her approach. Like it's with a lot of humor. There are some intense scenes, but it's not loaded with gore or explicit anything. So I really wanted to try it, and I felt like I could do it because I had a lot of stories in my head, and I found this venue like that I could actually do it, and I thought that would be fun. And the idea of a Aforetime actually came from one of my classes when I went to school. I went to school for art, and we had archaeology class. And our professor was visiting a lot of remote Russian villages, and they were trying to discover old ways and old beliefs and old songs and stories that people shared. And these remote villages, people don't connect to a modern society in any ways. No TV, no radio, no stores. They live in the woods. So they still believe in witches. They still believe in spirits of the forest. They have rituals. They try to um, have good relationships with the spirits, and they remember the forest is the entrance into another world. And it's interesting because we know now how people used to solve all of their problems. That's how they would explain it. That's what was the view at the time. And um, I got really inspired by the stories, and some a little bit I put into the book. Not everything he was talking about, but um, some things I stole from from the class a little bit, not too much. But yes, and I did a little bit of a research. Just I read a book on the roots of the Slavic folk tales, the where all the stories coming from. Oh, because people used to do it this way. That makes sense. That's not just, oh, that's weird. No, why would people do that? Well, because they believed in XYZ. And that's make perfect sense. So I wanted to blend magic and fantasy, but also ground it a little bit, explain it a little bit so you have a real feel and you're not picking up the book that it's completely unrealistic. I wanted to be a first person. I wanted you to be in the story. I wanted to have an adventure, a little bit of a mystery, and I didn't want to do a heavy romance line. I still wanted the story to shine. It would be plot driven rather than the character driven. Compared to the book that you're reading, this is a character driven book. This is
They're
this is
very
not
different. They're
that
very
is,
different. We'll
yeah.
talk about that one too. I love that you brought that up with the folklore because I was doing a lot of research,
Mhm.
and um, because that was one of my questions because I looked it up to see the categories on Amazon and it said folklore and folk tales, and I was like, okay, so this is where I think it's coming from. Let's do a little research, and so especially with the characters. So the main character, her name is Anna, and she finds herself in the woods in the very beginning, kind of Hansel and Gretel feeling
Yeah.
to it a little
Yes.
bit.
Yes.
And that is the same sort of, I think, or story origin coming out of Russia, that
Absolutely.
area,
Yep.
and Slavic sort of thing. And so
Yeah.
then I started really thinking about it because some of the names are, I was like, oh, well, maybe it's from this. So maybe you can help with that. So even like she's something is chasing her at the beginning.
Yes.
And that in itself, I was like, that sucked me right in because it's written in such a way that the world building isn't this intense, complicated. Like you're there with her and you can feel her scared. And I loved that. So it sucked me right into the book. And then she finds Baba Yaga.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's folklore in itself. And what I found fascinating about that whole line is, and I've seen it before, is there's an evil Baba Yaga who eats children, like Hansel and Gretel, and then there's
Yes.
one who actually is a hero. And in this case, she's a hero who helps children find their way, and then they have this great family relationship, which I really loved. So I love that you intertwine that into the story. And then even when she sort of gets kidnapped by her new friends into Gora, like there's places in Poland, like Bald Mountain in The Witcher, that reminded me of, and I could visualize it. So when you were researching, did you research it all other than that as you were coming up with the storyline, or did it just start coming to you as you found your characters? And what did
So
that writing process look like for you?
I started writing right before the war started between Russia and Ukraine, and I really wanted to do something with Ukrainian roots in mind. So all of the names of people in Gora, Gora is based on the Ukrainian uh, the fortress, so the city. And what we know from the history, Ukrainians used to be always through the history, they used to be very independent. They
Mm-hmm.
would be often self-governed. And I really like that compared to Russia. Russia is a little bit different.
Right.
So all of the names coming from they're all Ukrainian. Gora is the Ukrainian name, and uh, when you travel through the book and you get to different directions that are inspired by certain locations, the names would be different. Like when they go to Underwater Kingdom, it's inspired by France, so all names are French. And I did um, the the whole place was inspired by Versailles. I tried to describe it as much as I could, the gardens, the different approach to the beauty, and
Mm-hmm.
more of organized beauty compared to wild beauty of Gora. It's all natural, all woods, um, things like that. And returning to the folk tales, yeah, there are some stories with Baba Yaga. In some stories, she is in fact a villain. She is eating children, or she's trying to eat the protagonist. And often in the stories, protagonist has to trick her and
Mm-hmm.
get something he wants from her. But in some stories, she helps the protagonist. So it really it depends on the story. Um, and in my case, I picked that way. And Baba Yaga as the so her character used to be a symbol of the wilderness, the nature. So the person would walk in the woods and you don't know what's in there, so it's unknown. It's like basically like you enter in the another kingdom. So underworld kingdom. You go somewhere like you don't know what will happen, and people did not know what it is, and they thought old woman living in the woods may be guarding the gates to another world, and that's what her figure was. And that's how I treated her. She definitely does that. Um, so yeah, it's inspired by folk tales, and I know that in different countries there's like a similar story with different characters, but the idea is the same, and
Right.
that's what you're referring to.
Well, I love that because I don't think fantasy always brings that in, and it is YA fantasy, and so I'm hoping that my daughter reads it because she loves those sorts of things, and even though there is a love interest, I really feel like it's an appropriate YA story for an 11-year-old to read, rather than some of the ones that are out there right now. And I love that um, the main character like started off like okay being alone, and all of a sudden she jumps into this adventure. And I think more of a like some of us need that inspiration from her, right? To take this big adventure, because if someone just whisked you away, and I don't want
Yeah.
to for our members if they haven't read it, and then you wake up in this other place, most people would be like rebelling and being like no, but she feels this connection to them. And I love that there's vampires and witches and dragons, and they're all sort of nonchalant, which would be nice to see from our own society about how different people are.
Mhm.
So I love that connection as well. Um, so so I looked up even Aforetime because, and we talked about this backstage a little bit, because I love a book when you're reading and all of a sudden you connect the title with what's going on in the story. And when everyone was like, what's it about? What's it about? And I'm like, oh, there's this best twist. And all of a sudden the light bulb went off in my head. And I love that. How did you decide on the title? You know, did you decide Aforetime on that title or afterwards? How does that work? Because you do have 3 books in this series.
Yeah.
Um, like the writing process is so different for everybody, especially when you're writing YA, because you want kids to get it. But I think YA is a lot of times for adults these days. So,
Yes.
yeah, and I know that it's a 15th century word because I'm an English nerd. But how'd you come up with it?
I it took me a while. I wanted to find a word that would describe not the main conflict, but give away. So you would read it and you will think, oh, that's why. I wanted it to be connected to the story, not just being a pretty word. Although it is a pretty word. I like how it sounds too. Um, yeah, I thought about it forever, and when I came up with this one, I was thinking, yes, yes, I really like it. But it took me a while because
And
my newer stuff, I'm trying to do more of a what people are doing. It's more complicated title, but I like that it's the smaller title. I think it fits the story.
too. And for our members who haven't read it, this is the cover. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Did you design it yourself?
Yes, I did. I do some graphic design, and this is really helpful for a small author because it's a huge task.
Yeah,
I'm glad I
totally.
can do it.
Oh yeah, they're beautiful, and even the printing it's a nice feeling book as well, and the covers are gorgeous. I've got them up here; they're incredible. The colors they're absolutely gorgeous. So I read that you love music, and as I'm reading books, I always think about what would this character be listening to, or what was the author listening to while they wrote it. What would the soundtrack be if this was made into a movie?
Into a movie. I really like action movies. I like movies that you watch and you forget about everything. Like you mentioned Witcher, for example. There are a lot of them. And I would love scenes that are more intense to have like this feel of an action film when you just, oh my God, what's going to happen, all this tension and everything. But I also want the scenes that are more light, to have this lightness that you see in YA shows, for example, Wednesday. So it's a little bit ironic uh, at the same time. So maybe a mix. I think that
Yeah.
would be great.
What's your favorite genre of music?
I um I don't know. I listen to so many things. It's weird. I, it depends on my mood because I like a lot of classic rock, and sometimes I listen to classic rock. I also like Lana Del Rey. I listen a lot of that more melancholic music, like more darker melodical music, and I I don't know. A lot of things that I
When you
like.
were writing, did you listen to anything in particular, or do you have to have it quiet? Because every writer is different on what they need when they're writing.
It depends. Sometimes when I write, well, it depends what kind of scene you write because some scenes I feel they require more of attention,
Mm,
especially when you open up like the first couple of chapters. You do a lot of world building. You try to not give away everything, not do info dump. You're trying to still provide this engagement, but you still want to give some details so people know who protagonist is. So I probably don't listen to anything, but if I do some kind of romance scene
mm.
and I need to get in the mood, in the book that you're reading right now, I did a lot of that. I would find a song that would give me that feeling, and I would just listen to it on repeat for 30, 40 minutes. I'm
I
done
love,
writing. I
yeah,
did that. Yeah.
I love that. The writing process is so different for everybody. I love figuring that out. Um, so I let's talk about A Heart of Onyx Flame because it is
I,
so different. I'm
it,
about halfway through, and um, I'm taking my time. I want to take my time because it's so different. Can you share with us a little bit about that one and when is it coming out?
it's coming out January 3rd,
Okay, so
so
soon.
very soon. Yes. I'm in the process of getting ARC readers. I hope I will build some reviews. It's very different. I don't know if people will get it because it's a different feel, but I really wanted to, well, it's fun to try new things. All Aforetime books, they're in a similar style, although I'll have to tell you that book two probably really similar to book one, and I personally like it better because I think the plot is a little tighter. Um, it is a shorter book too, but book three is a little more mature because the romance line is more pronounced there. It's still all fade to black, but I have some scenes there, so just be prepared. um, with A Heart of Onyx Flame, I just I knew I will take this character from book one, and I wanted to do something completely different because it's a different world. So I had an opportunity, and I don't know if you remember that scene in book one when Vera she came over and started talking to the girls, to the three girls, and she started sort of giving predictions. I would
Mm,
say in I forgot the name of the teacher in Harry Potter that would do that. Like they did predictions and she would never guess anything.
yeah.
And then out
Uh,
of nowhere she would just come up with something. So I wanted to create something similar, like a person that you never listen, and then just out of nowhere the person just saying things. And she gave a couple of lines of predictions to every girl. And for this character, it was clearly a romance line, what she told her. And I thought, okay, so I'm going all romance in this book. And it turned out I did not plan it. So I did the first chapter, I wrote it, I introduced her to this world, and I did not introduce the male main interest at all. And as I started writing her, I was thinking, what would be fun? What if she is meeting this guy who is completely opposite to her, and they have basically the same issue but from different points of view. So they doing the same thing. They don't want to get close to other people for different reasons. She doesn't want to get close to others because she thinks that she wants to go back home and she doesn't want to get attached. And he has his reasons. Wouldn't it be fun if I will force them to work together and force them to go through adventure? And but it just happened. It just characters started doing things, and um I was not controlling it at that point. It's not like I sat down and I said, okay, so this is complete romance and I'm doing here this and this. It just went.
Yeah. So, how many books will be in that series?
I did not plan a lot of books. I may go back to it because people have questions. And when I did initial world building, I thought I will go into it more, but it turned into a romance story, a romance and action story, and I loved it. I know it's really different, but I don't know. I may revisit because there are some things that I didn't explain all the way, but I
Right.
think from the storytelling point of view, it's complete. So
I
I
can,
may, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
yeah, I can't wait to get through it. And I was like, I was trying, like, I was going to get it done. And I was like, no, I'm just want to take my time because it is so different from Aforetime.
It
And
is.
the beginning, like, I was like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. What's happening? It sucked you in from the beginning. So I can't wait when that one, the print version comes out as well. Cause I'm a sucker for, I mean, this is only one of like many in my office area of stacks of books, and so that's exciting. So this is a pen pal group. um so what do you I'm going to go back to Anna's character,
All right.
um because she does have this big adventure. It's a pen pal group, and in this group we all write introduction letters to each other. What do you think her introduction letter would say if she was in this group trying to find a pen pal?
Depends. Is it in the beginning of the journey or in the end? Because her journey was a lot of growth and discovery because she had to go through a lot. And in the beginning, in the woods, she almost she's desperate. She's almost a broken person. She doesn't trust anyone. She's scared. She doesn't know what to do. And she is finding one person that is willing to help her, and she gets a little warmer when she's living with Yaga. And then when she gets to Gora, and she thinks that she's happy the way she was. And when she gets to Gora, she realizes that no, I want all of that. But it's taken some time for her to realize that no, it's not because I don't want people to be around. And it just I'm afraid to be rejected, and I don't want to try because I don't want this rejection again. And so in the beginning that probably would not be a very warm introduction, but in the end it could be because she's willing to be vulnerable and she wants to try. She wants to have other people in her life.
Yeah, I could see that. Very different intro letter, I think, from your character in Heart of Onyx and Flame. So I want to show you some of the comments in the chat. We've had so many technical difficulties tonight. So Brandy's here, and I want to go back up because I know she's also reading A Heart of Onyx Flame, because we were just talking today where we're at. She's about a fourth of the way. I'm about halfway, so I'm trying really hard not to spoil things for her until she gets through. And then she said this, which is pretty awesome. She's so badass. Very different character. And on the reality, I think that Anna is badass in her own right too, because like you
Yeah.
said at the beginning, there's this terror. And then I thought, wow, here is this girl who's really desperate and is trusting this old woman in the middle of the woods who she doesn't know, and then finds like this family, and then that then grows. Two very different characters, but a badass in her own way, because by the end of the book, she's using her magic and doing all these great things. And I know that there's some members commenting. I don't want to spoil anything. So, and there's a lot of people that will rewatch. So I love that in characters, especially strong female characters. I think we need a
Yeah,
lot of those in the world we're in right now. And
exactly.
I think that younger kids, especially those kids in middle school, need to have those kinds of role models as well, without some of the more explicit content that some
Yeah.
might has
It,
too.
it was also important for me to start with a character who doesn't have a lot of powers. And
Mm-hmm.
in a way, she has to earn them. She goes through different situations, and it's almost like quests. So she's completing the quest. She's acquiring knowledge or some magic, or she knows how to unlock something, but she doesn't have things from the beginning. That's why I don't give her much in the beginning. And
So
she has to earn it. So
yeah,
that's more interesting because a lot of books, I personally, I'm not a fan of a chosen trope. I don't know. We saw it so many times. I wanted to do
right,
almost so you feel like you could be that person. You have to work for it. In Anna's situation, she has to be very smart and very quick to figure out, to read people, to be to realize what kind of person is in front of you. So
right.
I tried to infuse a little bit of my life experience, but I did not want to be preachy in any way.
Right.
So there are a little bit of things that I've learned, and especially with the book that you are reading, she's going through some of the tough times with other kids or other young adults,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of this stuff I went through, and that's why I opened with about Mean Girls, because that was my
Mm-hmm.
experience. A lot of these things
It's
happened to me. It happened.
still happening. We see it every day, either on the news, and I'm a teacher, so I see it in school. And I'm lucky that I'm at a charter school, so things are a little bit different, but it happens all the time. And
Yeah,
finding that power within yourself to rise above that, and to use those critical thinking skills are really important for girls to read. And not just girls, but all kids. Um, Not to follow the crowd, to be your own self. Your
yeah,
characters do, which I really love. So,
yes, exactly. Yes.
yeah. So to answer in the comments, I think it's Jamie in the comment because I can't see names. So Jamie's asking, how many books are there? There are 3 in this series.
3,
Um,
it's complete series. Yes.
and then, so Brandy said you don't really have to read them all in order to understand the stories. And I haven't read all 3 yet, but you should, because then you know the characters. What do you think about that? Should you start at the beginning, or would it be okay to start book 3?
I think it will be better to start with book 1 because you a lot of the backstory you probably would miss because some of the things that she has to work for to get it. And I'm a big fan of Easter eggs. Like I put them everywhere. I love to connect stories. Um, and when I was writing book 3, I returned to book 1, to book 2, and I
I love
did all that, and I tried to connect them together. And um, book that you were reading also, there are connections with the next one that it's coming. I did a lot of these things.
I was
Actually, book 3, Homecoming, has the Easter egg that it's connecting to book 4 that you were reading. So I'm curious because no one is saying that. Oh, that's what you did. No one ever seen that, but I'm still waiting.
so I
Hoping
was just
to
gonna ask
figure
you
it out.
if there was Easter eggs with a heart of onyx flame. So now I'm going to look for it as I read through because I love Easter eggs too.
but it's book 3 and you didn't read it, so you will not.
But I'm going in order because I'm that kind of and I'm also that kind of where I have to buy the entire series if I'm going to buy one. So that's why my to be read in my room is 324 books and counting right now. So,
oh, that's great.
But I'm a super fast reader. But because once you get sucked in, there's nothing worse than being invested in the characters and the plot, and then realizing that you don't have the second book and you have to wait.
Oh yes.
So I'm all about buy them all, because you're going to love them, and so yeah.
It's great when it's the complete series. And I would say about Aforetime, I try to do every book as a complete story. That's probably what Brandy is talking about, that there are no cliffhangers. So everyone is a complete separate story, but they're connected together. I try to do that.
Yeah.
I tried to do a cliffhanger for A Heart of Onyx Flame, but it did not. I couldn't do it. It was a good place, and I thought, no, can't do it. You have to finish it.
So I discovered your website today, and I absolutely loved your post about book boyfriends. The problem with them, because I find myself going to historical fiction or even to fantasy, because even though there often is a romance line in it, like people get sucked in with the book boyfriend things, and there's problems with them. They're unrealistic.
Unrealistic. Yes, that's one of the problems.
So I love that aesthetic too with that post. So I'll post that within our group too, so everybody can check it out and subscribe to your newsletter. I'm excited that the next book, because I love to have all the physical copies, will be out super soon. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me. Once we have everybody reading A Heart of Onyx Flame, I'll have to have you come back so we can talk about that one.
All right. That would be great.
Brandy said, "Why am I still single?" Go read about book boyfriends, Brandy. Great. All right. Thank you so much again, and I hope we get to talk to you soon.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.